haven't looked at anything. I haven't looked at any questions. Haven't looked at anything. So we're gonna go live, and I know nothing. So hello, world.
I'm only gonna do 3 questions today. Ooh. We got 3 really good questions, and I think that they're gonna take up most of the episode. Because honestly, Cage, today's an interesting day. 9/11. It's a day of remembrance. It's also a day to unite America. I know one of the questions here, Cage, I'm really excited to get into it. It's from Dennis Patrick Zender.
One of our favorites.
One of our favorites. He was asking where you were when this happened. So, Cage, you could look at the IG. It was a question there. I didn't bring it up.
So we'll get into some better questions because we don't need to do that. But it's funny, guys. If I were able to use movies for this entire episode, I'll use Back to the Future for this one. If I could go back in time to when I was in high school or finishing high school, one of my friends' father was in the sanitation department. He's like, hey, why don't you come to the sanitation department with me? I'll get you in. It's not the easiest thing to get into. You kind of have to know somebody to get you in, the whole deal at the time. And, a Staten Island sanitation has connotations to it, I guess. So I wasn't part of my world at the time. But in any event, I look back, I probably should have done it because, you get to work 20 years and then you retire. So yesterday was 20 years to the day for me working as a lawyer, a practicing lawyer, out of law school, full-time job. And if you do the math on that, 20 years to the day yesterday means that my first day of work in downtown Manhattan in the footprints, in the shadows of the World Trade Center, my second day of work was 9/11. And I took the ferry up to work at like 8:30, left my brother on a subway and walked up Broadway past Wall Street, past the Stock Exchange and Trinity Church, and World Trade Center on your left, the building that I worked in on the right side of Broadway. And as I made the right, I saw the first plane kind of fly right overhead. I'm like, from down on the ground, the funny part is, well, none of it's funny, but the interesting part of it is perspective-wise, it's you can't really tell the size of things from down there. You watch it on TV, and you can see the magnitude and the size of it. From on the ground, you can't tell whether it's a prop plane or it was just somebody. You can't tell. And I remember going into the building to proceed to work. I was on the 43rd floor of the building, heading up there and telling people a plane had just hit a building. Now it's amazing to say this, but it wasn't a one-time thing in New York. I mean, a lot of tall buildings in the city, and I forget the guy's name. I should look this up because I tell this story. There was a pitcher for the Yankees who owned a plane, and he flew his own plane into a building in New York. And I just assumed that it was something like that, that it was somebody else who had a small plane. But I get up to the conference room up there.
Corey Little.
Corey Little. Yeah. So you could see that, and he, it was a smaller plane. He crashed into the building, and I get up there. I start telling people, I'm like, let's go look. We look out the conference room. I go around and tell people, look, this happened. And as I'm 500 feet up in the air and a much closer vantage point at what's going on, and out of the other direction now comes the second plane, and you realize, okay, you have to kind of get out of there. I'm now in one of the taller buildings downtown, and it's like let's move along. And I didn't leave right away. Some of the stuff, you can see pictures and stuff like that. I don't want to really go through it, but some of the stuff that you saw from that vantage point of people above the fire line who had no way of getting out, and were just unable to do anything but jump. This is not a fun sports episode, but it's definitely an interesting time. It's definitely an interesting thing, and it was an interesting day, to say the least. I was in the middle of it. I was covered with stuff, and wound up walking over one of the bridges in the East River and walking home to Queens. Took me several hours. A lot of nice people on the way, offering water, clean the stuff off, clean off your eyes, and that kind of stuff. I don't like to tell the story because what did I lose that day? A suit, a nice pair of shoes that I walked for 30 miles in or whatever it was. And but a lot of people lost a lot more. So it's just one of those things where, despite the fact that it's obviously a story like this, it's, it was a lot worse for a lot of other people. And, that's why I don't really talk about it that much. But that's where I was that day, Dennis Patrick Zender. The only little exclamation point that I'll put on it is this, and we don't get to politics. It's a fun show, and it's supposed to be a happy show, and we'll get into something happier, I'm sure, I hope. But, we have a tagline on it, like, never forget. Never forget what happened. And, it's a slippery slope forgetting. And, I would ask everybody to kind of think about where we are in the world now, what's going on in Afghanistan and what's going on here and what's going on now with freedom. What happened on 9/11 20 years ago was about freedom. It was about people attacking our freedoms and people attacking our way of life and people attacking America because of the freedom that we have. And, when we hear never forget, it's great to put a little tagline out there. It's great to put a little, picture up there, and that's very important. But, never forgetting is more than just two words. It's making sure that we don't lose the freedoms that people died that day for, that people have died for in the 20 years since.
So first off, thank you for sharing, because I kind of put you on the spot with that one, and I know Cage doesn't love to share that story because, guys, if you've lived through that day, and Cage has told me that story maybe once before, it's a pretty intense day. Second thing is, it is a friendly show, a funny show, a show where we entertain people, make them laugh, make them kind of escape their real lives. But sometimes, Cage, it's also a show of people, right? And people are thinking about that stuff today, and I think they'll appreciate you sharing.
All right. You know what else I'll share with you guys? So I have a guilty pleasure. You see these little bad boys right here? See this? This is like my favorite thing in the world. And when it comes to this time of the year, not candy corns per se, but yes, you're right, candy corn pumpkins. It's this particular thing. I don't know what it is. I don't know what chemical combination God put into this, because it can't be made by humans. It is too good to be made by humans. This, whatever was put in here, and look, a little pumpkin with a little green top over here. I don't know if it's honey or what. It's the right consistency. This may be. If someone posed the question to me today, DPC, about not where I was 20 years ago, like if I was on a deserted island and I could only bring one thing with me, this might actually make it. This Swedish fish, oh, look at this, Drake's. Eat those with dry roasted peanuts and it will change your life. Never done that, Drake. I do have peanuts. I will try that. I try not to eat peanuts too often because it just, if you say it too often, Drake, you're eating peanuts, Drake, you're eating peanuts, Drake, you're eating, it just sounds bad. But in any event, here's the pumpkin, and it is one of. I mean, the problem is, if I get this, I have to eat the whole bag. They're sharing. All makes sense now, Goldberg. Blaming the kids.
All right, let's go. Let's get into the show, Cage. Are you ready?
No,
I appreciate you sharing.
Well,
I appreciate you sharing that. So Drake's PC asks, and I'll read the question. I'll contextualize it. Like, why do you think team collectors are more prevalent than player collectors in football and basketball? For example, some Peyton Manning collectors only collect his Colts cards. Tom Brady collectors only won his New England Patriots cards. Where in basketball, LeBron, no one cares if he's in a Heat jersey, a Cavs jersey, or a Lakers jersey. Like, it doesn't seem to matter.
So, I think it really depends on the career trajectory of that player. I think that if LeBron would have stayed with Cleveland, that you would have Cleveland collectors that are also LeBron or LeBron guys that buy other Cleveland stuff. I've spoken to a lot of people who are Curry guys, who are Golden State guys because of it. And he's been his entire career there, and hopefully he stays there for those collectors and those people. And in football, for whatever reason, you do see, especially quarterbacks, once a franchise has their franchise quarterback, usually that team does what they need to do to keep that player, lock him up early. Like Mahomes is going to be on the Chiefs forever. It's an odd scenario to see that guy leave at the end of his career. Brady is a Patriots guy. Sure, he's on the Bucs now and he'll end his career there. Sure. It's sort of like Marino. I mean, it's sort of like, Marino stayed with the Dolphins. It's sort of like Montana, a 49ers guy. but he left at the end of his career, and he had a couple of seasons with the Chiefs. Same as Peyton Manning. But Manning
that was actually one of the examples that was brought up. Like, no one wants really Montana Chiefs cards.
Yeah. But LeBron has now won with 3 teams. He's had good stints of his career with 3 teams. Usually in football, it's that guy's going somewhere after he's already done what he's going to do in the league. Peyton's a good example of someone who had success with another team. And I would even go as far as Peyton has Bronco collectors because, Peyton won it for the Broncos, So I think it really is just basketball has a lot more movement, at least recently, right? I would tell you that Jordan has Bulls collectors. There's not many Washington Wizards Bulls, not many Washington Wizards Jordan guys. And maybe this changes, maybe football, maybe it changes in football. I just think that most people, when you talk about football collectors, it's quarterback collectors. And when we talk about quarterbacks, they don't move teams that much. I think that's probably the answer.
So this is a good question from Fediwap. When I look at the prices of older players' rookie cards like Chris Bosh, they have very little value. And then when I look at a guy like Rui, they sell for more than Bosh currently. Logically, I don't understand. Isn't Rui's ceiling basically Chris Bosh? Why do people think his cards could be worth more? Should we be looking at base cards differently?
So let's put it into your world, right? And then you can help. You can chime in on this one, right? Stocks go from being, growth stocks to they no longer have that growth. They no longer have that PE that's crazy with a multiple, and they become value stocks. A company like Netflix in the very beginning had a huge PE, a huge price to earnings, and it was the stock was based on the potential it had. At some point in time, Netflix will reach status quo. They won't have that 100 multiple to earnings because they will have created the company. The company will be more static. It will be what it is, right? Disney was value growth at one time. Disney was more, and then it became a media company. It was pretty static what it is. Tesla will eventually reach the amount of cars that it can build, you name it, right? So
potential, right? It's potential.
But if you think about it that way, Rui has a lot more game ahead of him where something could happen. People are buying him now with a larger multiple because there's the potential for him to turn into something great. People see the Asian market potentially buying into him. People see him, he's young and maybe he turns into something else. Sekou Demboya, so young. People have the same sort of a take on him. And now with a change of scenery, it might actually be helpful as well. Whereas Bosh, what you're getting with Bosh because he's done playing. There's very little downside to his cards now. I mean, I'm sure he can go out and murder someone tomorrow, and that probably won't help his value. But besides that, his playing days are over. You know what you got out of him, and he's done. There's no more potential in his cards other than just potential static growth with the rising tide, right? He is as great as he was. He will never be greater. He will never be worse. That's why you have this. And guys, really, let's fold in some Gary V wisdom here. Before a lot of people listening and watching got into cards, Gary was talking about this and saying that to justify the prices of some of these guys, they have to turn into top 50, top 75 players all time. And he would name people like Chris Bosh and like Ray Allen. Those were kind of like the names that he would throw out there and say these guys were all-timers. These guys were great players. Stephon Marbury, these guys were great players in a different generation. And nobody cares about their cards now because they're not playing currently. You can't root for them, and they're not going to do anything else that is an impetus for growth in their cards. So that's why you see what you see. You may listen to this and say, well, I think then that Bosch's cards are undervalued. And that could be the case, right? Because there's nothing saying that Rui's cards are going to go down or up. He may stay static and just all cards go up. And then people will look back at Bosh. It's sort of like what happened when modern cards went up, right? People were like, all right, come on. Well, if this is worth this, let's go back 10, 15 years and look at Olajuwon's cards. Let's go back and look at Charles Barkley's cards. And if you're paying this much for Michael Porter Jr., well, he can only hope to hold Charles Barkley's jockstrap one day, and yet Barkley's cards are significantly less money. So in any event, you understand what I'm saying, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean Bosch's cards are overpriced or static. They may go up too.
Let's go with this one. This is good. This is baseball, Cage, and this is kind of what you've talked about. I'm going to look up how many home runs Ohtani has in a second. Chasing Cardboard asked, why has baseball gone down except for Ohtani and Wander Franco?
Because they were all hype. They were all hype. And Ohtani for a while was nothing. Remember, he was injured. And Wander Franco, I gave him as a play when he was in the doldrums. He came up, he hit a home run, and then he died. And then all of a sudden now he had like an on-base streak where every game he's on base. And he's hitting the lights out. Wander Franco, he would have to basically win 6 MVPs to justify the pricing that's going to happen for him in this offseason and next season. And he may do it, but there is a lot of potential cooked into him. He's like one of these, a great example, guys, if you want to take a look at it, is Bryce Harper. Just a great example. Bryce Harper came up with more hype than anybody else that I've seen ever. And he came into the league young. It's sort of like Griffey. Right, and that's the only one that I'll compare him to. Right, it's a Griffey type of hype, like top pick, on the cover of all these magazines. Playing, under 18. He
had the persona too.
Yeah, and he had the hair, the whole 9 yards. Right, and he's won an MVP already, and he's hit he had 50 home runs that year, and he's played meaningful baseball, and he signed huge contracts, and he plays really well, and he's got a huge fan base. But even his cards are not. They're not worth that much now because it would be impossible to live up to the hype that would justify the prices of his cards coming out of the gate. And I think you're going to see the same thing with Ohtani and with Wander Franco. And I think if you're asking me about where to deploy money now, it would not be in those guys. It would be in someone like Acuna because no one's looking at him because he's hurt. It would be somebody like that where since no one's looking at him, he still has the potential. He's still a guy who can go 40-40 every single year he plays and is healthy, and still going to have a great career. Ohtani, what they're showing you is, as amazing as his first half was, you can't do that over a full season, let alone over multiple seasons. And he would have to do that. He'd have to be, a two-way, runaway MVP every year, basically, to justify some of the prices that are coming out on him. And, it's like everything else, right? I think the Ohtani thing is FOMO. I've been in rooms and trade events, trade nights at Bleecker, where Ohtani was all anyone was looking for. I would say, I don't have any Ohtani. When Ian was doing his selling at the East Coast National, he had one Ohtani that I traded for, and I gave him. It was Ohtani, I think red jersey, PSA 10, tops, just rookie, $250, $300 card, nothing crazy. And that was the card that everyone asked him for. I think he kept it though. I don't know if he sold it. But that's the point, right? That's the card everybody's looking for. It's the card everybody's hanging on to. And when everyone wants it and the people who have it want to hang on to it, that's when you see the prices kind of go nuts. How many home runs does he have?
44.
Ooh, he actually turned it on a little bit then. He has 44 home runs. He had 33 at the break. I said he wouldn't hit more than 15, which means he would be under 49. He'd have no more than 48. And what has he got, like 25 games left in the season? I'm still comfortable with that pick. It'll be close. It'll come down to the last week.
1 home run every 5 games. All right, 2 more questions, guys. It's going to be a shorter episode, like I said. Reckless asks, what's up, Reckless? By the way, Reckless is a great follow, Reckless Cards, because they're like a whole family brigade.
There's more than one follow. You got to follow the whole Reckless team. I get swimming events. I get cross-country events. I got Steven running cross-country. I don't know how he does it. We got Courtney, the matriarch. We got just posts all over the place. And, interesting ways to crack slabs with your teeth while you're doing, what do you call it, a clean jerk something or other. I'm not a weightlifter, obviously. So something with a jerk in there.
You have the body. You'd be a good power lifter, Cage.
I can lift this place.
With more and more SGC slabs coming into the market, how would you compare an SGC Gold to a BGS or MPSA cards?
I would compare SGC Gold favorably to a BGS Black Label. No baloney on that, right? Because they're rare. I own one SGC card, and it is an SGC 10 Gold.
It's a pretty cool card.
It's a Brady rookie, not like one of the top Brady rookies.
It would be a cool card to make into an NFT, don't you think? It has like that kind of like
it's metal.
What is it called?
It's metal. It's a Fleer metal rookie of his. And so I bought that because I did value SGC Gold, the 10 Gold, because I think there's only one. There's only one in that. And that's probably because a lot of people are grading with SGC, but the flip side is also I think that they take that level really seriously. And it is
you kind of got it for a steal too, right? It was like one of those like offhand market auction.
Yeah, it was one of the non. I mean, listen, I paid more than PSA 10 for it, so I don't know if I call it a steal, but a pop one, you've seen, especially on these top guys, you've seen their cards go for a lot of money when they're you've seen SGC 10s of like Michael Jordan sell for significantly more than PSA 10, was selling for at the time. Yeah, sure. Same type of thought process that I had there. I would value it definitely higher than a PSA 10. Reckless, just because. Look, you know what? I'll tell you guys for this, and this is not just for this question; it's for everything, right? I never even look at their pop counts. Well, it's a good thing, right? I wouldn't look at their pop counts unless it was an SGC 10 Gold and see whether or not it's a 1-1, right? Because really what it comes down to is the story, right? We're all telling narratives with our cards, right? We're all telling narratives with our stuff, right? Who owned this card before us, if anyone, how many are there? When we're doing our eBay descriptions, right? This is a pop 1, it's pop 2 with only one higher, it's a pop 2 with none higher. You're telling a story of that card. You're talking about the scarcity of the card. And I think when you have that SGC 10 Gold or a BGS Black Label or BGS 10 Pristine,
it also matters what card too. Like a Black Label Zion Prism base where there's 25 Black Labels, less cool than like a Giannis Prism Silver Black Label where there's only one.
Yeah, even that though, I would put a significant premium on a Zion Black Label Prism than I would over a PSA 10. Definitely.
No, that's such a stupid card. I mean, how many of the 17,000 PSA 10s are Black Labels?
Who knows? And you will never know until people take them out of that PSA 10 and put it in a Black Label. But
that's not a card I want Black Labeled, I think, or SGC Gold.
I wouldn't pay significantly more for it, but I would pay a premium over a PSA 10, definitely, because you get to tell the story. There's only 25 of these, and if you want to own Zion's rookie card, here's the one you want to own. Only 25 people have it. And you're right. I mean, I think if everybody sent in their PSAs, there's probably some that would go to BGS 10 route. Some would Black Label. Not all. But yeah,
no, of course.
Listen, I'm not saying I paid double what a PSA 10 sold for, but I definitely would pay a premium for it.
Cage, help a brother out here. Stanton. So when going through some old baseball cards, what should people be looking for? 80s, 90s? Look for Griffey.
So here's the sad part of that question, right? The vast majority of what everybody
This is a happy episode. You've already said that. You can't back.
I know, but I also have to be honest with people, right? Because this is a question I get a lot from people my age or slightly younger than me. They're like, I collect in the 80s and 90s. My mom's basement has my entire collection in it. I found these in my garage. What should I look for? What's going to be worth money? And unfortunately, 99% of what was made then is worthless. Worthless, just absolutely worthless. Like you probably should just throw most of it out. That said, there are a few cards that could be worth something. You're right, Griffey. If you have an 89 upper deck Griffey, go ahead and pull that out. You got any of the 89 Griffies, pull them out. Every year has key players. 88 is kind of crappy. 87, 86, they have your Bonds and your Canseco and your McGuire.
Is this Ian? Is this your son upstairs?
No, that's Ian Undercover. That's Ian Undercover. Ian does not play what looks like a saxophone there. That's pretty nice there, Ian Undercover. It's Tinder. It is lighted on fire. I mean, unless you happen to be one of the lucky ones that got a Tiffany set and kept it in good shape, or in the early 90s you were buying the premium stuff like Finest and happen to have that still. Or
did you have a crush on a girl named Tiffany when you were growing up, Cage?
No,
you loved that set.
I couldn't afford a Tiffany set when I was a kid. That's why I love it. I couldn't afford it. It was rare. And more importantly, as a kid, in addition to you couldn't afford it, it wasn't as cool then. It didn't come in packs. It was only done as factory sets. So when you're a kid, you wanted to save your allowance up. You wanted to go around the corner to the corner store, the cards and gifts, and plunk down a nickel for a pack of Topps cards and get somebody good in it, or put it towards completing your 792 card set. I would open up 85 Topps cards looking for Len Sakata, who was the last card I needed to complete my 85 Topps set from the Baltimore Orioles. Your Tiffany set came as a completed set, a little gold star sticker over it, and so there was less fun in buying that. When your aunt came over and gave you an 88 Topps complete factory set that they bought at Toys R Us in 1999, you weren't happy because you wanted to go out and make your own set, put it in a binder, collect them, collate of the teams, and open packs. It wasn't cool when your mom said, well, you don't have to buy those packs this year because your aunt just got you the whole set. Aren't factory set cards typically not worth so much? Okay, it's a great question above the rim. So the idea of factory sets, so it's amazing to talk about this now. Factory sets that are made by Topps now, they have different variations of cards that are factory set cards. A great example of it is like the Pete Alonso card that has the socks showing versus the not socks showing in one's factory set. And yes, that's less desirable now. Back then, there was no demarcation. There was not a factory set variant as opposed to what you got in the packs. The card was the card. It was the same card that was put in packs as was put in factory sets. So there was no like, okay, this was a factory set, so it's worth less money. There wasn't that at all. But it is now, and you're right. Now the factory set variants are worth less than the pack pulls.
You know what this means? I didn't really understand what this meant.
So it's funny that you bring this up. So Pedro de la Flor, right? So there were packs, silver packs, base cards out of 50. And I was at the National. I didn't get any of these packs. I don't know, who gets them or where they go or what the story is. But they have base card packs 50 with like a fireworks Kaboom type of background to them. Can they compete with Kaboom? The answer in short is yes. Any of these limited cards can compete with a card like Kaboom because they're the same thing. They're a limited print run that if it gets enough energy, fire, and maybe let's call it influencers behind it. Yeah, I said it, card porn. Anything can become popular. And it's funny you bring up this particular thing, Pedro, because some of the Kaboom sets were inserted in Nationals type of silver pack releases, VIP event release cards. That's what made Kaboom a little scary to me. Check the slabs on them. You'll notice that some of them came from like Panini Innovation when it first came out. You'll notice that Kaboom is inserted in different sets over different years. And you'll notice some of like the soccer ones, they were inserted in not like your traditional hobby packs where you were looking for a rookie card. And they were inserted in these sort of like Panini VIP type of giveaway type of packs. And people should realize that when they go buy them. It's not something that was, one per case or one, they were not case hits like you see with stained glass now or color blast now. Some of those Kabooms were just put in inserts like this in these like Panini silver pack type of things. I'll look some up and give, some more examples on it. I just don't have it offhand.
Last question, Cage. This is a good one. And I wanted to wrap with this because I think it's relevant. So KPB Cards asks, due to a job change, I'm going to be going full-time into cards. What advice do you have?
Do something else on the side. I'm sorry. I would not recommend anybody to go into cards and just do cards as a job. It's not something I would tell you to do. Keep looking for something else on the side. And the reason for that is, over the last 450 episodes, a year and change doing this with my partner here, we've seen the market ebb and flow. We've seen things go up and down. We've had guests on who are great at what they do. A great example, KK, right? KK Cards. Great niche, great guy, really does great stuff, great company, hired a lot of people. Remember we had him on, he was growing. And then a subtle shift in the business, a subtle shift in the market. And all of a sudden, this flying business where it was, PSA, was all of a sudden, okay, I have to shift. And they're good. They're good at what they do, and they shifted, and they got some SGC grading, and they added a CGC, I think. And they pivoted, and they did a very good job for their customers, and you name it. But that subtle shift, it impacts your bottom line. It impacts what's going on. It impacts, your ability to take in money. So doing cards full time, a lot of things outside of your control that are going to impact your bottom line. Sure, you can control a lot of it, but you happen to get in now, and for whatever reason, football starts, and there are a lot of injuries in football, and basketball doesn't heat up the way it is, and the market overall maybe takes a little bit of a dip. All of a sudden, you happen to be investing now, trying to make money, and all of a sudden, you're just writing it down, and through no fault of your own. The investments might have been sound, but the whole market is going down. I would say, like anything else, diversify, and part of it, diversification, is maybe having something else on the side that's not tied to the hobby. One of the things Andrew and I, obviously, if you listen to yesterday's episodes, are talking about are those NFTs, which is something else you could potentially do as well. That is not going to be tied to sports / the hobby. It's another way, sort of like cards, another way where you can control the investments. You can watch what you're doing. You can research it and do something there. To kind of diversify what you're doing as far as seeking that alpha. And yeah,
what about some creative options, Cage? Like, I'll give you one. So no one's done this. To spin up a website and review all the different tools and platforms out there for sports cards. Create like a blog.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I mean, listen, that's the advice, right? So, and Andrew hits the nose right on the head, like he always does, right? You'll be successful if you bank on yourself and you just show up every single day and continue to put out something that's valuable, right? Whether that's a blog, whether it's some other form of content, whether it's you charting your process in doing this full time. Maybe you're gonna buy some on eBay, some on Comsy, some on Star Stock, you name it, and then you do a video of, hey guys, this is my journey. This is what I'm doing. Here's my vlog. Here's what I'm doing, and I'm putting this out there. Here's what I bought in each one. Here's the pain points of each one. Here's this. And yeah, you could turn that into a blog, a web page. You could turn that into, kind of like a review of all of them. Now you're the TripAdvisor of hobby platforms. And
that's exactly where I was going with that.
So, I mean,
what about a supply store, an online supply store?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. It would be interesting, right? We often talk about the people who make money in the gold rush are the ones selling the axes and the pans for the gold, rather than the ones trying to mine the gold themselves. So there's definitely an avenue in that. It's not as much fun. You can't say, "Hey, I'm out there, making my money when Zion goes 5x."
It's fun to have cash flow and to reinvest it into cards.
Sure. I mean, the cardboard gold guy doesn't seem to be hurting for cash, even though
he doesn't like cards, though.
He doesn't like cards, So you have that on there. No, I mean, honestly, what would I say to you? I would say to you, congratulations, because it sounds like you are taking the leap to do something that you love, and not everybody takes that leap. A lot of us won't let go of one branch until we have another branch to grab onto. And, it sounds like you're maybe doing this without a net, and that's great. But to the extent that you can while you're doing it, try to build yourself a net, by having a lot of coals in the fire, right? Don't rely on one thing. And if you're just going to do cards, split those cards up, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Try to do some safer stuff, mix it in with a little bit of riskier stuff, and hopefully it all pays off. And if it doesn't, at least some of it is offsetting some of the stuff that doesn't pay off. And I guess overarching on it, right? If you're really going to be doing this as a career, I'm going to lean on what I tell everybody, and it's you're not doing this for a week, so don't expect to make this year's salary in the first week. But more importantly, if you're going to be here for a long time, do it the right way. Hopefully you've built up some relationships already, but continue to do that. Continue to do that in your dealings, because if you're going to make this a livelihood, you're going to be depending on people down the road, making deals with you, making deals in your favor, being able to capitalize there when you need to, and being able to trade with everyone, sell to everyone, buy to everyone. And the window on that will close on you pretty quickly if you screw somebody over. So try not to do that, because the hobby it's a huge hobby, but it's really tiny. So
an announcement I'm really excited to make, guys. We'll wrap it there. Cage, stellar performance as always. He doesn't even look at these questions. This
is small. This is a small episode. This
pulls the answers from his head. Guys, a little announcement that I'm really excited about. Like, the closer it gets, the more excited I get with it. So a lot of you guys know this. The app is called Whatnot, and we're in the final stages. So I usually don't do this, but we're recording this Saturday night, tomorrow, Sunday. We're going to bring back our Sunday morning NFL show, talking about fantasy, daily fantasy, and giving sports picks. But we're going to do it on Whatnot, and we're going to do it live. So we're going to do it 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time every single Sunday morning. And then 11 to 11:30, we're going to do kind of like a slab. So I'm just going to call it a slab fest. I don't know why.
Sounds good. I like it.
So it's going to be – I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be kind of like last year's show on steroids, right? Because it really is a show that's meant to be live, if you kind of think about it. Who wants to be listening to a recorded – because it's so timely. So we're so excited for it. This week, we're not going to do it. We're going to do it starting week 2. But tomorrow, Cage, if you're up for it, I think I already got Whatnot downloaded. That's the point. Most people have Whatnot downloaded. So we're going to have a much bigger audience, and we're going to be able to talk plays, daily fantasy, all that stuff. Cage, tomorrow, what if we go Instagram live and do kind of like a preview of the show? What do you think?
Sure. 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock. It'll be fun.
All right. We'll do a preview. Guys, here's what I love about this, right? I love you guys. Don't really like Andrew that much. But I like
I'm annoying as fuck.
No, you're not. Shut up. But you know, one of the things that we're missing, one of those things that was missing in the Sunday episodes, you know, you could hear it, right? You were listening to us and you heard Ian in the background saying, Chase Claypool is going to score 3 touchdowns today. You know, like you heard that in the background and you got it in the show and you got us talking about it. But you just heard us giving our thing, which is great. But I love Coffee with Cage. I love this episode because you're there, you know,
Yeah.
and the episode kind of flows with what you're saying. Look, Andrew's talking about people's comments. I'm reading them. The post I just made about a cheeseburger inside of a donut. You know, people are commenting about it. You know, I mean, it's funny stuff, right? And with Whatnot, you'll be there. We'll be giving plays, and I imagine that, you know, Andrew's going to give plays this time. It's not just going to be me. He's going to do some research, and he's going to give plays, and he's probably going to be righter than me. But I'm sure we're going to be not having the same pick on some games, which should make it fun. And I want to hear the chat. I want to see the chat talking about, you know, who they agree with. Why? What do you got? You got a different one. Maybe you'll change one of our minds. Who knows? And then layer on that, you know, we could call it Slab Fest. You know, it's almost kind of like opening up Cage's basement a bit because we are going to be, I guess we're calling it selling slabs because you have to sell it through the Whatnot app, right? Giving away slabs also. It's basically going to be a Sunday morning party. We apologize to our West Coast fans because it's basically 7 a.m., but the games start at 1. We want to, you know, do it in a way where it's actionable. And if you want to get your fantasy lineups in and or, you know, make some plays on the game, buy some star stock, you know, star stock A's of guys, right? Or you know, we do want to do it early enough where you can actually, you know, act on it. So, you know, this time slot makes sense. But yeah, you'll get in there, you get some bargains, you get to chat with us, and you'll know who I'm playing against because I'm going to tell you that the person I'm playing against is going to have a horrible game, and their whole fantasy lineup is going to be terrible, even though the guy I'm playing against this week had 2 guys play on Thursday night, CeeDee Lamb and Chris Godwin, who both had touchdowns in the first quarter because I suck at fantasy. I haven't even started. None of my guys have even played. I know I'm going to lose. But I'm in it, and we're talking football. It's football, guys.
We got a lot of things going on. We got a lot of eggs in the basket, balls in the air right now.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll keep my eggs in my basket. You keep your balls in the air, and I guess we'll be fine, and we'll see where we land. The everyday.
I love this guy's name, Sharkwitch.
Sharkwitch. All right. I mean, you can go a lot of ways with that. Do you first picture shark on a sandwich, like eating a shark sandwich, or do you picture like a shark with a black pointy hat flying around on a broom?
I picture a shark eating you and making you like a sandwich. What's your
All
favorite
right.
animal, Cage?
My favorite animal.
Yeah, or I'll ask it a different way. If you
I'm
were
going
an
to have
animal,
to go with a liger. That's pretty much my favorite animal. Now, if anyone in the chat can tell me what movie that's from. No, from Spinal Tap, you're right. But liger is pretty much my favorite animal. If anybody can tell me what that's from, then I'll give you a big 2 thumbs up. I want to see how quick. Anybody in the chat tell you?
No one knows what any of these references
They
are.
know. They know liger.
no, they don't.
They know the liger. Napoleon Dynamite. First guess. You got it, Pedro. Well done, Pedro.
That's actually another thing that's better on Whatnot. Like the
Vote
comments.
for Pedro.
on YouTube, like,
Vote for Pedro. Pedro gets the Napoleon Dynamite. Whew, I couldn't have done that better.
Dude, now all the comments are
If
coming
only
in.
I told you, you're the only one who doesn't know it.
Well,
Everyone knows it.
There's a lag. All right, LukaNation, we love you. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Instagram Live, 10 a.m. Eastern